The doctor pointed the sonic screwdriver at the door of the transmit booth, and with a click, the door unlocked. The moment it opened, Martha was assaulted by an appalling stink of death and burnt fabric. She stepped carefully over Archibald's smoking body, followed the doctor over the smashed and still burning horseshoe of computers. She glanced back at Archibald's body had vanished. Martha knew he'd be coming back, that all the humans and badgers would be resurrected, and yet it didn't make her feel any less sick at having to watch them slaughter one another. She felt again the cold steel blade that had killed her earlier that day. The time loop on the Brilliant brought them back from the dead, but it didn't stop violence and pain. The doctor fussed with the horseshoe of computers, the keyboards and screens all suddenly just as they had been before the badgers attacked. Then, happy with whatever he'd done, he collected up the scattered guns and weapons and set to work on them with the sonic screwdriver. He had that serious, single-minded look in his eye he often got when tinkering. "Anything I could do?" she asked. He said, glancing around quickly. "Don't think so, but it's nice of you to ask." She stuck her hands in her pockets of her jeans and walked slowly around the horseshoe of computers. For all she was bored, she had an eerie feeling of all sorts of activity going on wherever she wasn't quite looking. There were bodies and wreckage strewn across the floor, but she'd glanced away and then it would be tidy. It was just easier to close her eyes and count slowly up to 10. When she opened them, everything was better. The bridge was clean and gleaming, the mess all taken care of. In front of the door, blocked by a wall of scrambled eggs, sat the human crew and 3 badger pirates. The badgers took off their helmets. Archibald waved at her with a hairy paw. Beside him sat Thomas, the handsome man with the handlebar mustache. His uniform had charred and torn in a way which made him even more good-looking. Thomas tried to punch Archibald on the end of his wet black nose, but his fist struck what seemed to be an invisible wall of rubber and bounced back to smack himself hard in the face. "Oh yeah," said the doctor, still busy with what had once been a heap of guns. "You want to look out for that. I messed with your wall of electricity. Now it's not going to kill you, but you'll stay in your invisible little pocket of it until you promise to behave." "Promise," said Archibald immediately. The doctor adjusted the controls and Archibald scrambled free, joining Martha and the doctor at the computers. "But that's not fair," protested Captain Georgina, as if he'd confiscated her sweets. "Life's not fair," told Martha to her. "Didn't your mother tell you?" The doctor and Captain Georgina gravely completed. They ignored Martha. "You must be aware that the penalty for hijacking a starship is summary execution." The doctor didn't even look up from his work on the former guns, so Martha took it upon herself to answer them both. "You'd already killed us," she said, "so I think we're even, yeah?" The captain held Martha's gaze, her eyes blazing with purest fury. "You," said Captain Georgina, "will release me now." She spoke so carefully, so calmly, with such menace, that it gave Martha goosebumps. "Sorry," said the doctor airily. He finished whatever he'd made from the guns and came around to the side of the horseshoe of computers to address the prisoners. "Look, we got off to a bad start before. You seem to be under the impression that you lot were in charge," he grinned. "Now are you going to play nicely?" Dashiell and Jocelyn both promised to behave, and were duly released. The humans, taking their lead from Captain Georgina, sat where they were, saying nothing. They looked through Martha like a row of big sulky children. "You just going to leave them on the naughty step?" asked Martha. "Have you got a better idea?" asked the doctor, busy with his work. "We could kill him," suggested Dashiell. "That's a possibility," said the doctor, "but let's not. Why don't you telling me how you three got in here. You've not got a sonic screwdriver, have you? Nah, said Dashiell. Archie told us what we had to do. Yeah, said Archie proudly. You said vibrations. He pronounced the word carefully, like he was worried he might break it. Well, technically, said the doctor, it's resonance, but let that pass. So what did you do? Told Gabriel to make it vibrate, said Jocelyn. And he just did what he was told? Asked Martha. She had learned that Gabriel was a very literal man, you needed to ask him things precisely. Nah, said Archibald, he didn't. So he asked Miss Wingsworth. I see, said the doctor, clever. And we had to say please and thank you, explained Dashiell. But then she told the robot. You see, said the doctor, you just had to ask nicely. Yeah, said Dashiell, his eyes full of wonder at this amazing strategy. So, Gabriel, what vibrated, said Martha, and then you could get through? He made the thing like yours, explained Dashiell, pointing to the doctor's top pocket, where he kept the sonic screwdriver. He made it from broken guns. Smart cookie, that Gabriel, said the doctor. Your guns are full of all sorts of aiming and power accessories. You know what I've just made out of them? No, said Dashiell. The doctor showed them a particular hodgepodge of wires and circuits he'd been working on when they awoke. It'll be a test-made when it's finished. Martha wanted to laugh at the look on the Badger's face. They were impressed with everything, and the doctor just lived to show off the whole time. So they made a perfect audience. Do you even know what a test-made is? She asked him. Said Dashiell, no. Makes tea, said Archibald. That's right, said the doctor. Tea is good, Archibald explained to his comrades. And if I can get the timer to work, explained the doctor, you can set it in advance so you can put it on before you go to bed and wake up in the morning with a fresh cup of tea. But won't the guns just repair themselves when the loop works? Asked Martha. Maybe, said the doctor. But I'm hoping the ship will recognize that I made them into something more useful. The Badgers nodded wide-eyed at this genius, and then Dashiell put his hairy paws and touched the back of the doctor's hand. We thought you'd been killed, he said. He spoke gruffly, trying to cover up the real feelings in his voice. Despite everything they'd been through, despite all the pirates had done, Martha felt her heart go out for them. You came to rescue us, she said. Yeah, said Archibald, kind of. You came to avenge our deaths, said the doctor more sternly. Yeah, said Dashiell. But you know better than that, don't you? Said the doctor. Is revenge a good thing or a bad thing? Good, said Archibald with enthusiasm. Dashiell nudged him at his ribs. Bad. Why? But why? Said Martha to Dashiell and Jocelyn. Last time I saw you, you wanted me dead. Yeah, said Jocelyn. Sorry about that. But Archie said, explained Dashiell, how you're good and how you let us eat food. And we were bored, said Archie. What? He said, when Dashiell nudged him again. You're not really taking their side over ours, are you? Said Captain Georgina from over the wall of scrambled eggs. She had gone to her feet and stood with her hands pressed against the invisible rubber wall, so that she looked like she was performing some not very ambitious mime. The humans were all beautiful, well-toned and glamorous, but imprisoned they all looked awkward and unsure, and a bit silly. They're stupid, clumsy animals, Captain Georgina continued, and they smelled disgusting. The Badgers bristled. We're not stupid, said Dashiell. Not now, said the doctor, the captain wagging his index finger at her. That's not very nice of you. Look where your airs and graces have gotten you so far. What do you mean, said Captain Georgina. These things are were made to be inferior. Yeah, admitted Dashiell, staggering. I don't understand, said Martha. You mean this lot made the Badgers? Well, not this lot specifically, said the doctor told her. Your lot, generally humans. You didn't think it's odd that what the Badgers were wearing, uniforms with skulls and crossbones, human skulls? Shows who's really in charge. Martha couldn't believe her ears. "You mean they're slaves?" she said, "like the mouthless men down in the engine room?" "Oh, they don't call them slaves," said the doctor, "but you need someone to do the dirty work for you. You get to space and no longer immigrants, but Ood and Maynards and Vox." He gestures towards the captain, Georgina, and her staff. "And then this lot are growing their own hands in the engine room who won't answer back to and the Badgers do all their thieving." "It's disgusting," said Martha. "But did not make the Badgers." "We did not make the Badgers," Captain Georgina protested. "No," said the doctor darkly, "but your species did. Some rival gang or faction from down the street. Someone who's seen the war coming." "Yeah," said Jocelyn Dassel, glared at her. "We don't talk about the client," said Archibald. "It's confidential." Again, he spoke the last word with great care. "Oh, that's right," said the doctor. "You got to protect your clients. Imagine how embarrassed they'd be if anyone found out what they were up to." "Yeah," said Dashel, though he didn't seem quite sure what he just agreed with. Martha could see his brain struggling to understand. "They don't own you," she told him. "No one owns anyone." "Ha," laughed Dashel, and then his eyes narrowed as he realized it wasn't a joke. "How can something like this happen?" she asked the doctor. "How can it be allowed to happen?" "You really want to know?" asked the doctor. "No," said Dashel earnestly. "Yes," said Martha. "We have to face this stuff. People like this lot," said the doctor, waving a hand to the imprisoned human crew, and not quite including Martha with them, "but live like the whole universe is solely for their entertainment. They trash their own planet, and despite years of evidence and warning, all kinds of species die out." "Badgers," said Jocelyn quietly. "Yeah," said the doctor, admitted. "I'm sorry." "It's okay," said Jocelyn. "But not all humans were the same," said the doctor. "There are ones who were different and cared, and they did their best to gather loads of DNA records and set up a library of all the extinct species they could. One day they said humanity would know better, and then they could recreate all the wildlife." "So why didn't they?" asked Martha. "Why not make the badgers look like badgers used to be?" "Ah," said the doctor, "some words they did, but not very many." "Ain't no profit in there," said Dashel, struggling. "They were much more useful being badger-human mixes," said the doctor. "Then they could be sent out to work." "That's," Martha said. "It's so bad I don't know what it is." "It's market forces," said Captain Georgina from over by the door. "These three," said the doctor, indicating to the badgers, "get their genes from the Western European badgers, like the ones you'd get in England. Died out in your lifetime." He grinned. "The Latin name for the Western European badger is Miles, Miles, Miles. I always liked that one, so I guess the human badger mix-up would be Homo sapiens, sapien, Miles, Miles, Miles." Martha's eyes were wildly. "Oh," said the doctor. "Well, I think it's funny, even if no one else does." "I'm sorry," Martha told the badgers. "I thought of the miserable lives these badgers pirates had, and a simple thing like cheese and tea seemed like amazing wonders." "She's right, though." Dashel gestured towards Captain Georgina. "We ain't as good as them." "See, the Captain, Georgina, they know we're better, so it's not right to keep us locked up." "Better?" laughed the doctor. "They caught you in their spaceship, despite your clever disguise. They stopped you before you could use the experimental drive, and now they're free and you're not. So who's got the most points?" Captain Georgina growled at him, and she said nothing further. "What disguises?" "What disguise?" asked Martha. "You said that they had a disguise." "Oh," said the doctor, "the Brilliant isn't a luxury cruiser. The crew here clearly doesn't give a stuff about the passengers. It's the robots that are programmed to look after them." "It's a cover," said Martha, horrified. "You were using them as shield. It's just about the experimental drive." "That is the security issue," said Captain Georgina testily. She seemed small and imponent with where she stood, and the cage that held her not even visible. and neither comfort nor deny the allegations. But you wouldn't have tested the experimental drive if the passengers had been humans, said the doctor. Captain Georgina riled at this. There is a war coming, she said. Billions of people's lives are at stake, and there have to be priorities. As long as they're not your sort, said Martha to her, utterly disgusted. Our sort, corrected Georgina. You're human, too. Lucky us, said Martha. The doctor ignored the captain, busy again with controls. Martha thought couldn't turn her back to the captain. She felt she had to stare her down, making her look away first, as if that would somehow win a moral point. I don't like it either, but it had to be done, Captain Georgina eventually said. She looked away. Martha joined the doctor and Dashiell at the horseshoe of computers. Dashiell seemed transfixed by the screen that showed the spiky peach-shaped pirate ship. Can we call the mantle board from here? He asked the doctor. The doctor laughed. Is that what your ship is called? He asked. The mantle board? See it? Said Dashiell. Yeah, it's a pun. Laughed the doctor. No, said Dashiell. It's a spaceship. Well, anyway, said the doctor, you can't call them. We're still subject to the status field. There's in another time zone entirely. Dashiell contested this. Good, he said. Captain Florence is scary, explained Archibald, and she won't like any of this stuff. We can't stay here, said Jocelyn. What, forever? Asked Martha. Yeah, said Archie. We've brung food. He rummaged in front of the spaceship and withdrew a silvery tray. Dashiell and Jocelyn also had silver trays tucked into their spacesuits, and they placed the 3 trays down on the horseshoe computers. Count to something, said Dashiell, closing his eyes tightly. Another one. Martha looked at the doctor, who had also closed his eyes. When she looked back to the trays, they were filled with canopies. Archibald had brought the tray that held the infinite cheese and pineapple sticks. He offered them to Martha. Thank you, she said. Archibald had offered the tray to the doctor and his 2 comrades. He headed over to the human crew, still imprisoned by the door. He propped the invisible wall of rubber with his hairy paw and looked back at the doctor. Are you sure about this? Asked the doctor, surprised. Yeah, said Archibald. And what about you, Captain? So the doctor asked Captain Georgina. The captain was staring at Archibald, just a foot in front of her. Her expression was impossible to read, and then to Martha's amazement, the captain simply sighed. We can agree to a truce, she said. There's not much else we can do. Brilliant, said the doctor, and worked the controls. Captain Georgina reached out a hand tentatively, expecting to still meet an invisible wall of rubber. She lifted 1 cheese and pineapple stick from Archibald's tray and nodded at him crudely. Thank you, she said. You take 'em, said Archibald, pressing a whole tray into her hands. We got beanie pizzas. He hurried back to the horseshoe computer desk, and so missed seeing what he'd just achieved. Captain Georgina held out a tray of pineapple sticks, and without thinking about it, offered them to Thomas, stood beside her. Martha could see the look in his eyes. It would do to refuse the captain. So he took a cheese and pineapple stick, and soon the captain was serving all the crew. Archibald hurried back to the tray of beanies, and Jocelyn joined him with a tray of sausages rolls. Soon the pleasant little party atmosphere was going, and since the badgers and captains were serving the food, it seemed nobody quite dared question why they were fighting anymore. They're all friends, said Martha, amazed. She turned to the doctor, who was busy with the computers. Yeah, he said, not looking up. If they can't kill each other, they might as well get along, at least until something happens to change the status quo. His long, skinny fingers danced across the controls, and information on the screen changed too rapidly for Martha to keep up. What is this? She asked. Go and have some canopies, he told her. Oh, she said, that bad? It is quite bad, he said. What is it? Asked Captain Georgina, coming over with an empty tray in her hands. Archibald also had an empty tray. It seemed he was going to show her the method for making it full again. Oh, nothing, said the doctor easily. Captain Georgina glanced at the screens. We're eating up energy, she said. Eating is good. Archibald said, yes, said the doctor. but the time loop isn't perfect. It's got a gap in it. So it's more like a horseshoe than a loop, said Martha, seeing the horseshoe appear right in front of her. Yes. Okay, said the doctor, and up with the analogies. We speeding around the loop and hit a gap, but the brilliant has stuff and knows how to bend reality, so it glides us back to the other side, and around we go again. When it's doing that, it restocks the nibbles and brings us back to life, said Martha. All part of the first-class service, said the doctor, but each time it does that, it needs a bit of power to push it around again. Only it's not a bit of power, it's quite a lot. But we don't have power reserves like this, said Captain Georgina, her eyes never leaving the screens. That's more than the ship this size could ever hope to contain. Well, said the doctor, depends on how you look at it. You know how much energy is freed up just by being stood still in time? You're stuck in the space between moments, so it's like you're idling. Plenty of reserves just because none of you are really moving. So we're okay, said Martha, relieved. For a moment she thought they were in danger. Yeah, oh yeah, said the doctor breezily. What kind of? Good, said Archibald. Well, you say kind of, said Martha. You mean we are in danger? Yeah, admitted the doctor. The energy needs to keep increasing, said the Captain Georgina, studying the screens. Does it? Asked Archibald. It does, said the doctor. You see, you're using up all the energy while you're stuck here. Breathing, eating, talking, shooting, and coming back from the dead. It all has some to come from somewhere. What will happen? Asked Martha. She didn't like how calmly he was taking it. Usually just a sniff of trouble was enough to get him all fidgety and excited. It also didn't help that behind them the other badgers and humans were enjoying nibbles and polite conversations. She struggled to take it seriously. Well, said the doctor, sticking his hand in his trouser pockets, they'll come to the point the energy isn't there, and it'll hit the gap and won't be enough to momentum to get it back around again. So we'll be free, said Martha. The doctor jutted out his jaw in a manner of speaking. We won't be free of the time loop, she asked him. We'll be dead, said Captain Georgina. The whole starship will implode. Yeah, said the doctor, something of that sort. But there must be something we can do, said Martha. Well, yeah, said the doctor. There's always something I can think or could correct the problem. Get us off the sand blank. So do it, said Martha. Yeah, said the doctor. Still a problem after that. Captain Florence don't take prisoners, said Archibald. I sort of suspected that, said the doctor. So that's why it's tricky. If I don't get us out of this, we're going to die. But if I do, the pirate ship is waiting.